All right, we're down to part 3 of this youth soccer series. For the final episode, we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of coaching U6 and U8 soccer in most of America. There are definitely pockets of the country where U8 teams can look like Man City. Most of America is not like that. Most 6 and 7-year-olds need to get better with the ball, and how to get them better with the ball in practice is the heavy focus of this conversation, because it doesn't matter if we magically institute pro rel or build 1,000 futsal courts across the country. If kids aren't learning to love the ball and therefore love the game, none of it makes any difference. So sharpen your pencil, listen up, and volunteer as a rec soccer coach as soon as possible. Our guest today is one of the best email correspondents I've ever had, a huge help to me in my little rec soccer coaching endeavors. He's the women's soccer coach at SUNY Brockport near Buffalo, New York, and he's done a lot of youth soccer coaching in his day, and he's going to help us with several practical ideas on coaching U6 and U8 soccer. Mike Idland, welcome to Scuffed.
Thanks, Adam. It's an honor. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. I think this is going to be great. So let's start with the most controversial part.
All right.
You passed me a document a couple years ago that was that explained this, but you tell coaches of little kids, U6, U8, not to tell the kids to pass, not to even encourage passing. I mean, you're not the only person who says this. I know, I recognize that, but why do you not want coaches of little kids to encourage them to pass?
Yeah, I think so. I have kind of like a short thought and a long thought on that. All right.
Well,
So
let's hear them both. Yeah.
All right. So the short thought for me is basically that we want players who want the ball rather than players who want to get rid of the ball. So that's like in a nutshell the take on it for me. And we want to develop them and give them a chance to develop into those type of players, right? But then the longer thought for me is that like so many of the trip ups in this grassroots thing at the youngest age groups sort of tie back to this idea of insisting that the soccer look like adult soccer, and it can't and it shouldn't, and this falls right square into that, where it's at the very youngest ages, you'd be hard pressed to find players who actually can pass, in any kind of meaningful way over any physically, over any kind of distance. It'd be 10 yards would be a miracle foot to foot. And I'm sure you can find them somewhere. Like there's a group of 5-year-olds in Barcelona somewhere that can do it. And that's fine. But when we talk about just your random sample of kids in America who are signed up for fun just to play, that's outside of their scope. And then you just always have to bring it back to, is this fun or not for them,
Yeah.
And I think like at the end of the day, the ball is fun for them. Like having the ball is fun for them. And so for me, kind of the mission of this whole thing for rec soccer is like retention is priority number one, keep them in the game. How do you do that? You do it by, trying to ensure that it's fun. And how do you make sure that it's fun? You make sure they have the ball the whole time. And it kind of boils down to that for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I pretty vigorously agree with you at this point. I didn't really think about it that much when you first sent that, but, we talk on, like Greg and I talk about, or Greg actually talks about the clock ticking down when a player has the ball for the national team, for the men's national team.
Yep.
And some players, you can just tell, like they got to get rid of it because they just don't have it in them to keep the ball. And you can kind of see the full spectrum of this, like when you're talking about you want kids who want the ball rather than kids who want to get rid of the ball, because the players at the highest level that you really want are the ones who can keep the ball kind of no matter what, right? And I see that sort of the beginnings of that when you have a kid who just loves to dribble the ball,
Sure.
And you can see that they're not going to go that direction if they're 6 and they already just like kick the ball as soon as they get close to it,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's you took it right to the top there to the national team, but you're totally right. I mean, you just kind of look at like what opens the game up for players. And again, just like you, like when I first kind of stumbled into this, I'd been, in the youth soccer world quite a bit, but it was much more at the other end of the spectrum, at kind of like the premier club level and towards the higher end of it, coaching a little bit. But I definitely stumbled into the rec level of it with, my own children, like so many parent coaches will. And, I think that as far as like what unlocks a game for a player, it's always that. It's always like when he or she receives a ball, first off, do they feel confident with it at their feet? And then can they solve a problem, right? And it's the ones that can solve it under that pressure, like Greg's clock that's ticking down. No big deal. Like if there's still a tick left, like I can still do something with the ball.
Or you can reset the clock,
Yeah, a little move, and reset the clock, totally, right? And that's kind of like it, I think, in a nutshell, And then when you look to I was thinking about this kind of on my ride into work today, with our discussion coming up, and like the special ones, like if we think about, I don't know, just like let's just look at Pulisic right now, right? Like in so quickly, I think we knew that like he was right in the mix to be the one, maybe is the one, right? And why? I don't know, but I saw like just about every time he gets the ball, he can do what he wants with it, and he can bring it past a player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like carry the ball past a player pretty smoothly, pretty intentionally. And you think about like how simple that is, like just that concept in its own right, how simple that concept is. And I have a hard time seeing it any other way with the youngest kids, just give them a chance. Obviously for most of them, that's not going to pan out, but it'll pan out for more of them than would otherwise if you're always trying to get them to get rid of the ball, basically.
Yeah, and maybe your point about making it fun, making sure that the game is fun for the little kids who are playing it is much more important than like whether they'll become national team players, because we just want more and more kids to love soccer, right?
Yeah, but it factors in.
Yeah. So, how you work with some rec? You work with your local rec. Maybe you work with the local club too a little bit.
Yeah.
That's just preface to say, like, how much resistance do you run into on this point? And how do you persuade someone who's like, nah, my U8s are like, they're rondoing like Xavi and Iniesta,
Well, first off, none of them are, but I don't know. I think there's either resistance or, passive, a disguised resistance in there almost every step of the way. And it's kind of okay. Like I'm at peace with that. It's, I always say to the other people that are kind of like, on the board with me there, that it's, this is not the environment in which I make enemies. Like I live here in this town. I'm not, going to dig in too much about this, but like I'm available to you, and I definitely don't have all the answers or anything, but I have been through all the coaching courses. I have done all the licensing and everything, and I can at least try to pass some of that along. And so I try to, and I think, I think most probably fall into the category of either kind of indifference or passive acceptance of what I'm trying to put across, and I kind of give them like little one-page cheat sheets. Basically, I know I sent a couple of those on to you, just little coaching guidelines.
They're great. They're
per
really
age
great.
group.
Yeah.
And I think a few of them, I'm sure, just say like anything in life, don't tell me what to do, and I'm not even going to read this thing.
Because these are volunteer coaches, right?
100%. Yeah, 100% fun. That's like the age-old problem, like how do you get volunteers to comply? And I think you get everything from like, you get a few that are like, I think it's just like, and if you get like these dedicated types that are all for it, like, hey, thanks, you handed me this guideline for my age group, read it carefully, think about it a little bit, and then maybe follow up with me. And and those people are like on track. You just know if you go out and watch their teams go, it's going to look great, and they're like, good things are going to be happening. Those kids are going to be having a blast and getting better and all that kind of stuff. But honestly, most are somewhere in the middle. Like you might see little hints of they've taken your ideas on board, and that's, you kind of take half a loaf with that, I think. And then you'll get some that it's like clearly, either haven't, read through any of it or don't care to. And that's life, and I think like if you're trying to get 100% of them, it's just, set yourself up for frustration. But
so before we get into like you have sent me a actual practice plan for U6, which I think is awesome, and I want to kind of go through it and hopefully show it on the video here. But before we do that, maybe we should talk about some what are some kind of classic don'ts when it comes to specifically U6? I mean, maybe actually before we do that, U6 seems to me like the most such an important age group. In my town, U8 and U6 are not that different because there's a lot of kids coming into soccer for the first time.
Yeah.
And when they're 7, and the skill level isn't that much higher in U8. And I wonder, is that common in rec associations, or?
I think so. I mean, again, like I think it's important for people to know I'm not a guru in this department. Like this is, but
beg to differ.
But I don't know. I would agree in my little world. Yeah, they look about the same, and they're so similar. The objectives and everything for the age groups. So really, honestly, the only difference like at U8, and it's different. I know, and these things have been revised. I know, but for U.S. soccer, at least at the time that I was kind of consulting all their stuff when I was trying to put together these guidelines for these coaches. It was like optional goalkeeper at that age. And it's still a little, tiny little mini goal, 44 plus goalkeepers. And that really is the only difference. Like when I go around and look at it, it's identical, except there happens to be a goalie in there, at U8, but it's the same.
Yeah.
So,
okay. So what are some of the don'ts, like some of the common missteps?
I think I touched on it at the top, but don't expect it to look like adult soccer, and don't ask the players to make it look like adult soccer. That's to me a big one. So like, where does that come in? We kind of touched on the passing thing, but it's also like, if you think of the chorus that will ring out on any sideline in America, it's going to be spread out, spread out, spread out, pass the ball, all those. That for me falls into the don't category. And some of that is just like you're kind of trying to, swim upstream unnecessarily. But also it's just like what's best for their development, so I would definitely put that one in there. Just the idea of insisting it look like adult soccer. Don't do that. There is, I say, don't restrict the players' movements in any way, with like rigid positions or the range they can have or anything like that. It's like
everybody can go everywhere.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah. For me, freedom is the guideline there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah. I don't know. Don't get too abstract with the players, There's a bunch of, I don't know, don't have them standing in lines. Don't lecture them. That's I don't know. I guess that touches on the don'ts.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you have any others in mind?
Yeah. I mean, when it comes to practices, having people stand around is just like, it's absolute poison at that age, because people just disengage. And kids just disengage, and then you got a team of players who didn't enjoy soccer practice, and that's a tragedy.
Nobody wants to be standing in line, like in life. Certainly the kids don't. I think like it's so hard to keep them focused at that age. You have to be like exceptionally good with the age group and then get sort of lucky, right? And so there's all these little pitfalls in there, and having them standing around without an actual active thing to do in a given moment is just like a guaranteed way for it to go off course, I think, as well. And those kids that's like all time they could have on the ball that they're not being active with the ball. So you got to be organized enough to get the lines out, for sure.
Yeah. One ball, one kid ratio, which I mean, it's kind of implicit in everything we're talking about, but
that balls to player ratio thing is huge. Like I think when I first started learning about this stuff, and like I went and did the U.S. youth license, that to be honest, I don't think it exists anymore exactly in that format.
The E or something like that?
Well, no, it used to be just a true U.S. youth. That was the title of the license, a youth license. It was delivered through U.S. soccer, like through the federation, their coaching ed stuff, but it was actually a U.S. youth soccer course and curriculum, just kind of,
Okay.
delivered via U.S. Soccer. I believe it still kind of sort of exists more in the United Soccer Coaches like education pathway. But anyway, when I went through all that back then, it used to, you'd always hear like, this is a really interesting course to go on, and it also satisfied the continuing education units, the CEUs for your A license. So it was like, do it, it's just like it's a win-win. And going through that, that's where I started learning about balls to players ratios and things like that. It made perfect sense, and they're almost like guardrails to keep you from trying to make it adult soccer on little kids. And my understanding is that all of that came through the physical education curriculum for the age groups, and that's like where we had this pool of experts with working with those age groups and pedagogy and what works and what doesn't, and they just kind of packaged it up and put it into soccer and made good sense. So pretty big believer in it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we had an interesting exchange I don't know, a year and a half ago, something like that, a year ago, where actually it wasn't that long ago. It was more like 4 months. Anyway, who cares how long ago it was?
Yeah.
It was shark. I was talking about sharks and minnows, which my specific brand of sharks and minnows is not the one where you like go through an ocean to get to the other side. It's like it's basically just you're in a 25 by 25 yard box, and you got to keep the ball and not let it go out of bounds. And then if you're a minnow, and then the shark is trying to kick the ball out of bounds. I found this to be quite useful because kids enjoy it and they learn to keep the ball in bounds. Learning to keep the ball in bounds, change direction with the ball, really kind of crucial. So you said, you pointed out to me, you said, well, why don't you just tell me what you said so I can stop talking? Tell me what your reaction was to it and what you suggested, because it was a really helpful suggestion.
Well, I think I went back there. There's like a funny little detail to your story. So correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you have a kid that intentionally was losing the ball so that he could be a shark?
That's right.
That was like at the crux of the whole thing.
That's right. That's it. Yeah.
Did that kid ever come around for you or no?
Yeah, he actually came on real strong at the end of the season. But
Nice.
yeah, he I don't know that he loves soccer that much yet, but he that's right. He would kick his ball out of bounds so that he could become a shark
on purpose.
And I was like, what do I do?
Yeah, I love that. So with that, so that one just kind of triggered something for me. So it's like to me, like, what are the incentives in this whole thing? Like how is a game, kind of configured to like he found a gap in that, you know what I mean? He found a little bit of a loophole in that one. So it's
what a little rascal.
Yeah. They're always going to find a way. So it's good. It's like challenging. So so I don't know. I immediately thought of this game that somebody had shared with me years back, and I've used it. I had used it with my players. They all love it, called Foxes and Hounds. And I sent it over to you and said, like, hey, I think here's the fix for your sharks and minnows problem. And that one is basically like same concept. You have we have most players are a fox, and they have a ball at their feet. We just take a penny and tell them to like tuck it into their waistband. Either they can do it like a tail or like a side tail, whatever they're comfortable with, just penny hanging out. And then you get a couple of hounds, right, who don't have the tail. And obviously you can start with 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever, but the hounds are chasing the foxes, and they try to pull out their tail. And if they manage to pull out their tail, well, now that player is now a hound, and the whole hound pack keeps chasing after the rest of the foxes. But the big thing is to that, and like the difference between the sharks and minnows thing, is that it asks those hounds also to have a ball. So like everybody is dribbling all the time, right? So you're dribbling to get away from a player if you're a fox. You're dribbling to catch a player if you're a hound, all that stuff. And it kind of takes away that little like loophole that's in that sharks and minnows thing that you mentioned. Yep. And like when I kind of, I don't know, came onto that in my own coaching, I was like, perfect. That's one that's just going to like lock in forever when working with that age group. And they always like it. It's, it has to be fun. They love it. They have a blast with it. So,
something about the tails.
Yeah.
Having them pulled out. It's just like, they just can't get enough. Yeah. So, and everybody's dribbling the whole time, and they have to keep their eyes up a little bit to try to figure out where to go or how to get to somebody.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. And I know, like, I remember you kind of came back with, it's good because like I enjoy these little email exchanges we have every so often because it's good, makes you think, like make me rethink about my own stuff too. And I think he looked it over and was like, hey, thanks for sending this. I'll give it a try. But what happens when one of these hounds just ditches his or her ball and goes and chases the other one? Like I can see that happening, and it will. Like again, they'll try to kind of exploit any little.
Yeah.
And I think that's one you just as a coach, you sort of get out in front of it and just be like, hey, you have to keep that ball with you or it doesn't count. You pull out the tail, I'm going to give the kid the tail back. It doesn't count. You got to bring the ball with you and catch the hound. And that's sort of how you keep that like 1-to-1 player to ball ratio going on through the whole game, I think. So
Yeah. Yeah. And when you brought up the incentives issue, I defended Sharks and Minnows with the following. The coach, so the problem is the worst kid, let's not bandy words, the worst kid gets their ball knocked out right away,
and that's the end of their practice with the dribbling.
Yeah, right. Then they can't dribble anymore. So the solution I had for that with Sharks and Minnows was I would be the shark at the beginning, and I would just what do they call it? Passive resistance. Very gently sort of try to be scary so that it's fun, but like move around them, make them change direction, encourage them to keep the ball in bounds, and do that for as long as I can to keep while everyone's engaged. And then once people start to waffle a little bit, then I knock somebody's ball out of bounds. Then the kids start knocking each other's ball out of bounds really fast. So that was my solution, but it's not as good as Foxes and Hounds because, like you said, everybody has the ball the whole time. There's no problem there.
There's here and there. There's like, I mean, you can make an argument for your approach because, like, when you just let that fox and hound thing go naturally, it's going to be like it's like Mother Nature. Like the slow kid is getting caught quick. Like there's no getting around that. Yeah. But when you're kind of controlling it, obviously you can let that player who's a little bit slower have a little bit more time before getting caught. So it's, I don't know, like I could see a world where you just progress. Go from one quick 5-minute version of yours, move on to the other station. They'll love them both. They both will work. Maybe it kind of like, and as we go on and talk about like different activities and stuff, like I think like part of the art of coaching that level of soccer and those level of players is like, can you find ways to control the flow of the activity that like caters to those players at all different, ends of the spectrum, right? So the player that is like really struggling, slow, can't handle the ball, et cetera, right? To the player that this isn't challenging for, right? And you could see that player too.
This is a real challenge, yeah.
Yeah, and you might be able to sort of like just manipulate a little bit the way the activity goes so that both players are getting what they need out of it. And that's like the beauty of it, I think, Yeah. So like your approach, it's important for that kid. Like that kid needs to get a little bit of that very passive resistance that, and it's just another one of their peers is certainly not going to give them, No, yeah. It's dog eat dog out there, baby.
It totally is, yeah. And I think my experience with Foxes and Hounds is 2, which was your recommendation, I think. 2 is the right number of hounds because if it's just 1, it's pretty hard. It can be pretty hard for them to catch anybody.
Yeah.
But anyway, if you don't remember anything else from this podcast episode, remember Foxes and Hounds. It's brilliant, and I used it the night that you sent me the email, later that night. I'm a good listener sometimes.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
I used it that night and it was just immediate success. Like kids were, I use it with my U8s actually. And kids were like changing direction and doing like little stop start moves that they hadn't done before. Cause I don't know, it just forces them to do that stuff. So
do you go into it with, like, how do you go about putting those points across to the players, or do you just kind of let it happen? And
I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at like the message. It's all about like the exercise and me acting like a lunatic,
the energy and everything.
Yeah. Keeping them. Yeah.
So I think for any coaches listening and stuff that, and again, there's no right or wrong way to do on this stuff. It's just a perspective. But like for me, if you go into stuff like that with like, that it's going to bring out exactly what you just said. It's going to bring out changes of direction. It's going to bring out changes of speed. It's going to bring, little like vision problem situations that are like, hey, you better keep track of where those hounds are as you go, that kind of thing. Right. But I think like I don't know. For me, what I really like to do is like let a round go, and I don't let those rounds go very long. Like they, keep them
2
moving
minutes.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep them moving quick somehow. And if somehow the rest of those foxes aren't getting caught, just wrap it up or whatever. But try to get it so that I can, in between rounds, ask them questions. You know what I mean? Like, hey, how do you get away from one of these hounds? Like you get one's pretty close to me. I got one behind me. How do we get away from her? And you get one goes, hey, why don't you change direction? Do this with the ball, or okay, but then what? Like she's pretty fast. Well, you better change speeds. All right, show me what that looks like, and just gives you chances to kind of
Reinforce the concept.
yeah, have those conversations with them. It feels like it comes from it does. You're just kind of like guided discovery, letting those ideas come from the players, and that's where like the content piece comes in. And then when you're got like down the line when you're dealing with a game later in the day or over the weekend or whenever it is, it's like, hey, remember those fox and hounds? Like you are definitely going to have to change speeds here. Don't expect to get away from that defender if you don't also change speeds, right? And it's the same, and so hopefully that carries over a little bit. But I think like that's also important too, that it's not just all running activities. Like it's there's some craft in like that the delivery is coming across, and a little bit of planning on how it's going to come across. So
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm always kind of in the mode of feeling like I talk too much in practice,
I definitely do.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to find ways to cut weight,
Yeah. Less is more with all that. There's no doubt about it, at every level of soccer,
but some targeted stuff I think would probably be good.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk through this little practice plan you sent me. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. Let me see if I can pull it up for the YouTube. This is the U6 plan you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
And why don't you tell us about this drill? This is the first drill we do. If you can't see it up close, it's 25 yards by 25 yards, and you got 6 kids out there.
Yeah. So this one, obviously, that's just it could be 8 kids, it could be 5 kids, it could be whatever. But this one, I just do like this is as simple as it gets, and you should, I believe anyway, kind of move your practices from simple to complex as best you can, even within these kind of grassroots practices. Usually that just means take it from, a grain and bring it toward the real game, right? So this one is just every kid with the ball. You just say, hey, I'm gonna set a timer here, and it might be a minute, 45 seconds, 30 seconds. I mean, sometimes it feels like an eternity for these young kids, but how many touches can you get with this surface, during that time? And you say
this surface, you mean, when you say this surface, you mean this surface of your foot?
Of your foot, right? Yeah. So it could be like the laces of your right foot only, or inside of your left foot only, or sole of your foot. I don't know, you get creative with it, right?
Yeah.
And if you dip back into it through the season, now maybe get more creative with it second time, etc. But so it's just of course, like opportunity for them to get a ton of touches. There's nobody in there trying to take the ball from them. They do have like the lines as the barrier, I suppose, right? And running into other players. So there is some element, like something to navigate there as far as pressure, but nobody's trying to take it from them or anything. And then, kind of like I mentioned before with the Fox and Hounds thing, it's like most of the stuff I like to try to do coaching in between reps. So, I might stop it after 45 seconds and say, okay, put your hand up if you got, I don't know what, 20 touches, right? And, hand stays up 25. And, we kind of figure out who the top couple of players are. And then we, how'd you do it? Like, man, you got a lot of touches in there. How'd you do it?
Yeah.
Hey, I figured out that keeping it close I was able to add on more touches than keeping it, kicking it far from. Okay, great. Let's see if we can do that next round. Everybody go, keep it as close as you can. See if you can beat your number. That type of thing,
Yeah.
And just try to coach them with little challenges. Here's a little challenge. Obviously it gets at the point you're trying to make, which is like tight ball control, that kind of thing, right? But they come up with the solution. You give them a pretty clear focus for the next round. Boom, off they go, right? And like change the surface so that it's not redundant. They're getting like balance and everything like that. And the next time it's like, hey, I saw a lot of these balls are going out of bounds, but Sally, you kept yours in. Like when you get close to the line, how'd you do that? She said, hey, I do this little thing, like I roll this ball back essentially, or I do this, I cut it. Awesome. Show let me like this, you mean, and demo it for them a little bit. Yeah, just like that. Okay, great. Anytime you guys get close to the line, same thing. Try to do what Sally did right there. See if it works for you. How many touches can you get? Boom, off you go. So it's
I love
it. Sneak the coaching in, basically, is what it is.
I've never done this before, and I will be doing it this fall for sure.
Yeah, cool.
Because it leads nicely into Foxes and Hounds too,
sure.
Which we did already talk about. But let me just show you the.
For some people, it's so much more helpful to look at it. So
So the green ones are the hounds. They don't have a tail. They don't have a penny tucked in. They're chasing the foxes who do have a penny tucked in. Yeah. A little tricky to get for 5-year-olds to tuck a penny into their shorts, but you can help them with in full view of the parents.
Yeah, try to get a friend to help them when they for me, but or a parent or whatever, but so that's it does like lead on nicely, because you can kind of like, you could pick up the first one and drop it into the Fox and Hounds, and it more or less looks the same, right? It's players dribbling around getting touches, but now with a little bit of pressure, right? So those defensive players chasing them, and a competition component more than just they're against themselves or against the clock kind of thing. And but real similar, like you can move easily from one activity into the other. The size is the way I drew it up, it's a little bit different, but you could very well do it on the same size with or with similar numbers. You could use the same size grid as you used on the one before, type of thing. You just want those transitions to be like quick, quick and
which transitions are you talking about?
Like transitioning from one activity to another.
I see.
Right.
Yeah,
so if you're doing this counting one that, we just went through, and now moving into the Fox and Hounds thing, like, can you do it without them even knowing you switched? That's perfect, or with very, very little kind of like interruption. But and then you're hoping like here and there, you just get recall going on in there, right? Where it's like, hey, how do we get away from these hounds? Remember that, that little rollback that Sally showed us along that sideline? Like, how do you think that might work if a hound is coming from in front of you? Like, could you use it there? And they always, yeah, I could. Look, here's how it'll look. Great, show me. Can you show me, Molly? Can you show me, Marielle? And they do it. You know what I mean? And you just kind of roll with it, and it's just all basically, hopefully, feels like it's at least in large part their ideas that you're working with. And not too much of me, the coach, telling you here's exactly how you play, because like there goes the fun, like right then and there, I think.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. What do you think about so one thing we do, or somebody told me to do, is to have, when I'm the one offering passive resistance, which is obviously neither of these games, but when I'm the one offering passive resistance, then I tell them that I have a weakness, and my weakness is if you do a certain move with the ball. And I could see that working with like the rollback or the, move a cut with the outside of the foot or something. What do you think of that whole thing? Because I know you have a drill in the U8 planning and training session, which is like where the kids teach each other a move, right?
Yeah. We can look at that one too. I like it. I don't think I've ever had that idea that you just sort of ran by me, but I like it. I think that like you can, it could take your activity into exciting spots with a player, and like funny situations, and if you can get a kid to do this little step over, and like, I just happen to fall every time, like it's just one of those things. Like, every time you do a step over, like coach fall. I don't know. I could see it working. I like it.
Yeah, you become like kind of Krusty the Clown out there.
Yes. Yeah. No, I like that idea. So.
Okay, let's move to the next exercise.
All right.
In the U6 plan.
All right.
Pretty self-explanatory, I think, but explain it anyway, Mike. Please.
Yeah. So this one, again, none of this stuff is really mine. Like maybe the counting one, just most of it is just you just pick them up along the way,
Yeah.
And this one I definitely want to give full credit on, because it's I got it from, I don't know I think it's kind of a national thing, but there's a program called Happy Feet that works with babies essentially, I know there are different versions of it. There's like Soccer Shots that I think is somewhat similar, but my kids did one called Happy Feet, and it's I believe it's the the brainchild of a coach, Andy Barney, and so anyway, who's very like 1v1 oriented. So my kids did this. They were so young, and I'm like, oh, it locks in perfectly. So here's the setup basically. So you have coaches at each end. So you kind of need you really do need two,
Yep.
adults anyway on the field for this pile of balls. And you just have, it's a directional thing. So you have the pink team in this case trying to score at the top, the blue team trying to score at the bottom, but it's each player with a ball. And they, when they score, they just sprint back, give their own coach a high five. That coach gives them a new ball, and they just go again. So there is tons of dribbling, tons of scoring. There's chaos, lots of chaos, right? And like the whole dodging other players as they come through is like remarkably similar to traffic in games where, as I see this thing in action, I'm like, man, this is excellent, and it's just because they're so you so have to have your head up to not either run into your own player or somebody else coming. It's just, and they just get so much out of it for me. And like the satisfaction of scoring and the satisfaction of the high five and the satisfaction of getting that new ball played in and all that stuff, And every time they come through, maybe you kind of keep an eye on one of them and, hey, I love the way that you tucked that one in, or, watch out. I think you wiped out on that one. I don't know, whatever, but it gives you those little moments with each kid as they come through. So it's great. And it's like a good way to have something that's like, to me, that's about as much of a game as that age group sort of needs, they're you can keep track of it, and you just, the math will become difficult, right? Because how many goals did each kid score? And you get, hey, I scored, 10, but then somebody tells you they scored like 50 goals,
they'll lie straight through their
yes. So you're going to maybe have to do like a little Z-score on that or something, but you got to find a way to rate that. And, but one way or the other, you can kind of turn it into a competition, a game, within reason. They usually like that. And it's that same thing. Like it keeps the balls to players ratio 1-to-1. And it's when you think about like the experience of it, it's miles away from where the practice started with just, one player, one ball in a square. Like they've really moved on in sort of like a journey in the practice, but it's still one player, one ball, and it's still dribble, change direction, slotted into goal in this case, but most of it's just dribble, change direction, change speed.
Yeah. Man, I really like this, and I've never done it before, and I'm gonna do it.
Yeah,
so
you're gonna like it. The kids like it.
I have one point to make about it, which is, you say here when the player scores, she leaves the ball in the goal, sprints back to own end line, and high fives coach who gives her another ball. Crucial. Seems crucial to me that we don't have kids digging around in the goal to get their ball out.
Yeah.
Because then the chaos goes through the roof, and you're getting kids like getting scored on, like hit in the back with the ball and stuff.
All that stuff will happen if you have them digging the ball. It will happen to the coaches too. Like it's an awkward thing for the coach. You got to find your little moments to like get a couple out here real quick, and by the end you're just kind of like rolling them out with your hands. But it's you kind of put the adult in danger kind of thinking,
But that just seems really, it's so important in these practices to keep things moving and not to have and part of that is sometimes the coaches being really good at shagging the ball,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. If you have in this case, I don't know for you guys, but I'd be surprised if there's an under 6 practice anywhere in the country that doesn't have parents sitting around in their camping chairs. They all do, you know what I mean? So
I'm getting
one of them wants to.
I'm getting better at recruiting them. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, recruit them, and they'll probably enjoy it. I don't know what, but they, just use an extra set of hands. Yeah.
All right, and then see, look, this isn't rocket science. This is and here's the last drill for a U6 training session. If everybody did U6 training sessions like this, we'd be maybe we'll win a World Cup before 2100.
It is like you said, it's not rocket science. It's actually, and it's fun, like it's. Do try to tell the coaches because you can kind of see the defenses come up a little bit. And I'm like, this is about fun, also for you, I promise. And if you if you try to do this thing, if you're aiming up here to kids that are down here, you know, and you're trying to make it adult soccer, and really they need foxes and hounds, like it will not be fun for you, but it will be fun for the kids, you know, if you kind of stick with the program. So
yeah, it's no fun to try to get kids to pass and move when they're 6 and have them not do it, you know, like it's a fool's errand. And
a little bit.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I can go through that last. The last one's important. So, this one, right? So, basically, looks like the game. Like at first glance, it looks like the game as it's played, or at least for us, 4v4, little goals, no goalkeepers, for under 6. But it's a multi-ball thing, and I think like one of the simplest components for youth coaches at these very, very young age groups that they almost don't realize are available to them. Certainly if they're like new to it and just volunteering, is that you can use more than one ball at a time, right? And so here's the coach on the side feeding balls into this activity, right? And this is where it kind of comes back to that, you know, concept we were touching on earlier. It's like, can the coach kind of, you know, with a delicate touch, manipulate the game in a way that like it's going to make it work for most players. So you might have at any point, like I don't know how I drew it up, 1 to 4 balls on the field at any time. So it's probably like at its most populated, that balls to players ratio is going to be 1 to 2, right? But sometimes it's going to be a little bit below that. Yeah. And look, nothing's going to stop you from feeding a couple more in there. Like sometimes a ball will lay around, but somebody will go find it and go try to score. But having multiple balls on the field, it just opens up, like it will look chaotic. And that's probably why most people are going to be like resistant to it, but it really is okay. Like it's going to give the players that, like time on the ball that they need. There are reps. There are going to be like opposed possessions on the ball now, right? Because you're gonna have somebody come try to take a ball from you, and unless you have eight balls on the field for 8 players, which you might.
That seems like a little much.
Yeah, it is. It is a little much, but that's kind of what we had in the activity before. So you go like move it along, and get it closer to like get it closer to the game. So, but right. You'll see like the strong players are just going to go find the ball and go score goals. Like that's just the way it goes, right? It's like survival of the fittest kind of thing. But you'll be able as a coach, as you watch, to find players who are at the other end of that spectrum and like, this player's just not getting the ball right now. Well, guess what? Like I'm going to feed one in over on that end of the field, and the top player is going to go chase it down, and a couple others are going to go, and then I'm going to feed one in close to that player's feet, and nobody's going to know like why I'm doing it. But that player is going to get 3, 4, 5, 6 touches. And if I'm good about it, and if, he or she can kind of like recognize the moment, they may advance and score, or they may advance over,
right.
And you highlight it, like you catch them being good. Hey, great. Keep dribbling. Go. That was best. One of the best plays of the game, that kind of thing. And as a coach, you can kind of like delicately adjust those dials simply with just how many balls are on the field and who are they going to and when, right? And here and there, for like the purists, that this is going to make them like get sick to their stomach here and there are multiple balls on the field, just let it fizzle, like let the attrition happen so that there's one ball in the field for a little while, and there you have your normal game, see what happens with it. And it's good. Like that's what they'll have to, do on the weekend. And it's nice to have that little test and touch point. But you don't want that mode to be the dominant mode throughout a practice simply because the players don't get the ball enough. And for most of those players, it won't be that fun. It will be for a little bit, like in that case, when you have one ball on the field, and they'll all be engaged for a certain amount of time. If it kind of, if that ball lasts too long, you'll start seeing a couple like fall off, feed a new ball in, or end the game. You know what I mean? But that's to me how you control that piece of it. And at the very end, you have like that, that flexibility to play around with it. And that's where you're kind of like dabbling in and out of 1-to-1 ratio to all the way to 1-to-8 ratio. And it's healthy for them.
Yeah. That, especially that U6 age group. I mean, scrimmages are, and honestly games are kind of, for like 3/4 of the kids, not that useful,
No, I totally agree. There is something there to like, because you'll see some of the, I don't know, I know you're talking to some like big time people in this like series there, so I'm like real excited to hear what some of their other thoughts on it, because I'll read here and there that, at these age groups. I think even in the U.S. soccer stuff I was reading, way back when I was starting to put some of these guidelines together for our own coaches, kind of said there's no need for the games at this age. Like, just do the practice, and that's good enough, and they'll have a little competition within there. I do think that, like, this is just like a personal thing. I do think the game as an event, is a good touch point, right? It's as an event. Like, you talk a lot about the culture of like where our culture is in the in this country with the game, right? And it's like, I think you want that. Like, when I first laid eyes on this house operation that we have in my little town, it was an event. It was a festival. You go out there and you just go like, whew, it's organized beautiful. Like, we've got this big, beautiful open field at a state park that happens to be in our town is, and it's a thing for everybody to come together. They all kind of swoop in, 3 seconds before the games start, but that's a whole nother, point, and, spill out of the cars, get on the field, and boom, it goes. And, like, I think having that touch point for the kids and for the players is good. And, like, is the balls to player ratio off for that 30-minute game, however long it is at this age group? Yes. But it still plays a part in the whole thing. If they don't understand that it's a game, an organized thing, then I think we're missing something.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. Yeah. And especially we got a soccer, and the people who love soccer kind of have to meet people where they are a little bit. And
100%.
And at least in my community, if we were like, hey, come play rec soccer, we're not going to have any games, and we're not going to have any teams. It's all developmental. This is developmentally appropriate, folks. Everybody be like, peace.
Yeah.
Nobody's signing up for that.
That might be a riot. Like, it just, you gotta give them the games.
Yeah. No, the games are good. And little kids it is good for kids to sort of submit themselves to a larger sort of event, to use your word, to say, like, that I'm part of this. I have to sort of follow the rules here and do this stuff. I'm just saying, maybe that's not the best way to coach, but it is true. It's true for humans.
No, and they start, that little piece of how do we work together, and, like, the team aspect of it. And, I don't think there should be much emphasis on who wins these things, or, like, we don't keep score for ours. Some of the kids will try to keep score. They always ask. I just say, I don't know. I lose track, but it plays a part. So.
Okay. So, I think, so I have a couple other drill ideas that I wanted to mention. Just in that, I'm always trying to keep people engaged, keep them on the same page with me, and touching the ball a lot. One that really works really well for 5-year-olds. I don't know if you've ever used this. Is called, we call it pine cones. And what it is everybody, I put like 19, it's the number I always use, is 19 little traffic cones at the halfway line. And then I have one team in one goal and one team in the other goal, and every kid has a ball. And I say, go, and they have to dribble out and pick up a cone and take it back to their goal and stack it up. And whichever team of the two gets more pine cones wins the game. And, it's not like opposed or anything, but it is, at least for the skill level of the kids that I'm coaching a lot of the times, it's so good because they're actually dribbling the ball and kind of keeping their head up and kind of figuring out how to do two things at once. A lot of them, when they first do it, they reach down to pick up the ball when they go to get the cone. You have to, like, kind of train your muscles to do that. And but then they get the hang of it, and the kids really love it, and I can see they do get better with the ball from it. So that's one.
I like it. So help me understand it. So all of the cones are in the center, correct?
They're actually along the center line. So basically from sideline to sideline on this little 4v4 field. Yeah. Okay.
And so you have like 2 teams of 4 or something going at it.
Sometimes 2 teams of 3, sometimes 2 teams of 2,
Yeah. Can one team sabotage the other in any way or no?
No, kids have suggested different ways to do that to me, and none of them have made sense yet.
Yeah, I like it. I'm sure you can riff off of it a lot too, right? Like, what if you were to scatter those cones, how would that change things? Or if you were to do like, here's a set of, green cones and orange cones, and this, the green team, you've got to get the green ones, you got to get the orange ones, and maybe that puts some directional challenge in there. Maybe that puts some, you know what I mean? Some sabotage, some strategy. I don't know. I mean, they're 5, but it might be something you build
then you
toward,
could have,
right?
Then you could have an even number of cones, and one, as long as you have equal of each color, and then whoever finishes first wins.
Something like that, But it might be something like as you come back to it through a season, right? So maybe you get a couple times where they get it right simply, and then, hey, here's this new version of this game. The I don't know.
Yeah,
that kind of thing you can probably riff off of a little bit. Okay.
Another one, which I think has been made obsolete by the game that you were what was that third one called again? The one with everybody scoring a bunch of goals. High fives game. Yeah. So this is a drill I've used, but that I probably won't, because I'll start using high fives. But I was running into this problem where some kids were getting pretty good at dribbling, but they couldn't, like, they didn't have a sense of urgency about like putting the ball in the net. So basically I would just set two. This is kind of breaking some rules here, but set up 2 of them on either side. Actually, I did it where I would set up 4, 2 going one way and 2 going the other way from midfield. And I would just say go, and then the first one to score wins, so they would race to score in the goal. And I do think, like, if anybody's really hard up and they like want to try it, I think it's not a bad idea, because it's it forces them. It gives them the muscle memory of like going fast to like put the ball in the net, because they might not do it any other time, but then you do this goal races thing, and they're like, this is the goal, to beat this other kid, and they do it, and then you kind of do see it translate into like the opposed activities and stuff.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like any of that stuff. Like, I think you're pushing the right buttons, because that is a thing what you're talking about, like the, sometimes the like lack of urgency or lack of speed, or can we get these kids to change gears when dribbling and stuff like that. And you just try to find little mechanisms to do it. And it sounds like you've found one there, so when you have one racing the other, are the other ones kind of like waiting in line to be the next ones to race?
Yeah. I mean, ideally you have 4 going at a time, so people aren't waiting in line for very long. They're basically getting their ball and coming back to the middle.
I think that's a thing. And like, so for so many coaches, like some of the organizations that like almost feels like, hey, there almost has to be a line for this, just ask for parallel stations, right? So it's like same thing you just said, but can we set this up on 2 or 3 or whatever it is? Yeah. And as long as you have an assistant coach to sort of make sure it moves along, then you're good, and they're going, it takes that waiting in line piece out of it, and they don't like disrupt your practice or anything. But I think it's good.
It takes some time for kids to learn how to do it, because there is like, you have to go to this spot and then get the ball and go this way, and other times you're going to be going the opposite way. So, but once they get it, they really do enjoy it. That's the key thing, is kids enjoy that drill. They enjoy that exercise.
Yeah, you got to have a radar for that. Like, if they really like it, they take note of it, right? And if there's a little, like you said, it technically maybe breaks a rule here or there in your organization. Yeah, but they love it, and they're like enjoying the soccer. Yeah, that counts for a lot. It's like a weighted thing, and that counts for a lot of that weight. Yeah. 100%.
Okay, the last one I wanted to mention, and then I wanted to hear if you have any others. Is something I call sharpshooter. So you have say you have 6 kids in practice. Let's say you have 8 kids in practice. You put 4 on each side, but they can't cross the halfway line. Everybody starts with a ball, and then I set up 2 pretty large goals with cones, maybe like at the edge of the goal box. There's sort of a cosmetic goal box in these 4v4 fields.
Yeah.
So sort of off the corners of the goal box, maybe a 5-yard wide goal, maybe 6 yards wide on each side. And what they're trying to do is pass it through the goal on the other side, shoot it through the goal on the other side, and block the other team from shooting it through their goals on their
Right.
side. And then you just go to a certain number. I usually have a coach on the an assistant on the other side who's like keeping track of the score.
Mhm.
But the kids really love this, and it also kind of, this is something else that I noticed wasn't going very well in practice, is like nobody could really strike the ball. They weren't like hitting the ball hard.
Mhm.
And so we started doing this, and it does build that muscle memory of like, look, I see an opening there. I'm going to actually shoot it hard, because I know if I just like softly hit it, it's not going to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that exercise probably breaks some rules too, but I've had some success with it, and it works more with U8 than U6. But
So how many balls are on the? Is it one ball
basically,
on each?
as many balls as you have should be out
Keep
there,
them feeding in there.
because they're going to pass. They're passing it back and forth from side to side, so they have to retrieve the ball and then shoot it. And then sometimes they forget, and there's a bunch of balls collecting in the back by the goal.
So how many balls are active at any one time
I would
in the
say
game?
6.
Okay, so it's got multiple.
It's a lot. I mean, it could be 8 at all. If you got 8 kids, there could be 8 balls active at all times, and and probably should be close to that 7, 8.
I like it. Like there's I almost kind of when you were asking for like different activities, I almost kind of put a striking one in there, which I kind of for me at under 8, I like to get into that a little bit again, because like in our setup, there's a goalkeeper in the little goal, and like their inability to strike the ball stands out a lot. But then also at the highest level, sometimes you go like the inability to strike the ball sometimes is like glaring, for certain players. And definitely like when they get to my college level, when I work with them as players, it's like, if a player can strike it cleanly, that's a special skill set. Most are just kind of mediocre in that department, and some are, poor in that department. So it's an important thing. And I almost sent one to you that's like real kind of similar, but it's just boiled down to either 1v1 or 2v2. And it's kind of set up on, I just think of it as like a tennis court, but it's almost identical. Like you stay on your side of the court, make it very, very tight. Like without fail, as you go to set it up, you'll think the game can be longer than the length of the field can be longer than the players can handle. So make it very tight. Might be like, honestly, it might be 20 yards long, or 22 yards long at most. And just kind of, okay, you stay on your side. Each player is, if it's 1v1, they're both the goalkeeper and the striker. I mean, they have to deal with both aspects of it, right? Now, the goal for them is behind them on the goal line, but you have a certain number of touches, right? So when it comes on my side, I've got 4 touches to use up however I want, right? I can dribble it closer and strike it all the way up to like midfield, or I can just hit it first time if I really wanted to, or whatever. And then sometimes you can add like a teammate to that, right? And now it becomes 2v2, and now you're sharing those touches as needed, right? So if you and I are playing together, maybe I control it first touch, play it to with my second touch, you lay it off for me with our team's third touch, and I strike it with the fourth. But that's like most players can't sync that up, but you might like build toward that, you know what I mean? But it is sort of unopposed. I mean, there's opposition on the other side of the field, but there's nobody there trying to take the ball from you. And you just put a little rule in there, like if the ball stops moving, the other team gets it. So it kind of keeps the game.
So it's just one ball at all times.
Just one ball, yeah. So that's where you have to watch with it, right? But if you just have it set up on a bunch of parallel courts, you can do it 1v1, or you can stretch and / break the rules a little bit and go 2v2, right? And again, this depends on the age group, but if you're under 8 or certainly under 10, you're fine. You're within those parameters. And now they're starting to do a little bit of, certainly at under 10, they're starting to do a little bit of like, how as a pair can we accomplish this task, of keeping the ball rolling, sort of create some kind of angle to strike. And then you got to for sure make sure that the focus is on the technical of like the basics, right? So toe pointed down, ankle locked, shoulders a little bit more forward, that kind of thing. And, like I found with these young kids, when we get to a point in the season, and it even, I don't know, under 6, but under 8, I think you can get there, where by the end, and when they're having some trouble with that piece of it, that last piece, the striking piece, like if you just find a way to make sure that they have exposure to the technical components. When we shoot, this is how we shoot, right? And so the ankle lock piece is probably the biggest part that is like foreign to them. So you kind of have to work on that. Like,
Yeah.
how do you keep that foot from wobbling? I just always say, like, don't let it flap in the breeze. It's got to be like firm. If we try to pull a foot, would it move or not, right? And you want the answer to be no. And like, where on the ball do we want to make contact? It'll be like a mystery to them, kind of just through the center of the ball, toe pointed down. I have them driving almost everything at that age, but they have to move their way through the different finishing, styles and techniques as they move along. But it will pop up in the game. It's like, this stuff actually works, and like, you'll see a kid, the light bulb go off, and all of a sudden now they strike it with a little bit of technique. And like, what do you know? They score. And so that stuff is important. I think those little setups, like you have, like, yours sounds a little bit fun and chaotic in a good way. I love it. I think maybe it's like almost like I could foresee a practice where we almost like early on find some little way to tease out the technique pieces of how you strike, strictly like the technical mechanical stuff, put it into my little 1v1 version, move it into your bigger number version with lots more balls. Let's get a game going that does have a goalkeeper in each goal afterwards, and see if, just make sure that, like, the only coaching we really do is the ball striking piece of it, and the light bulb will go off for somebody that day, Yeah. So
Yeah.
It's kind of what it's all about.
Well, you got one or two more drills burning a hole in your pocket. I know we're not supposed to call them drills, right? We're supposed to call them exercises.
I don't care what anybody calls them. Like, I think that whole thing is pretentious to me. Just to
Good.
Yeah.
I've been calling them drills.
It's fine to call them drills for me. I don't know. In that under 8 one I sent you, I have a 1v1 one that I picked up that I like, that I think was like, when I first came across it, it sort of opened up an avenue for me to work with players in, all the way from like grassroots kids up through, whatever college, senior level adult players. Call it Space Invaders. 1v1 dribbling. It's somewhat of a similar kind of setup of what I sort of described as like a relatively small court. It's like, I've got it drawn up as 15 yards long, put a midfield stripe in the middle, right? And you just have one player with a ball at an end line and one player standing on the line in the middle. And the player who's standing on the line in the middle is the defender. They are not allowed to leave that line. So they can move laterally as much as they want, but they can't move forward. They can't move back. And now what the attacking player is trying to do, they dribble from one end, and can they successfully dribble past that defender who is trying to win the ball, but they're restricted by only being able to move sideways, right? And just bring it to that other, the opposite end line. And if you do, like, that's success, you score, right? And so you just have that 1v1 setup. Yeah, there's the picture. So you just have that 1v1 setup, and it kind of like, the beauty of it is it like allows you to sort of hone in on sort of those like mysterious aspects of how certain players are able to like successfully take players on 1v1 and certain players are not. And so you might kind of look at it like, okay, well, how do we approach the player in the first place, right? Like, what do those lines look like? And I think like the vast majority are just going to kind of line up in the middle, go at them centrally. That defender will stay central, and they're going to have a tough time getting around them. Even if they do push from one side to the other, like, will they be able in the end to like keep the ball in play and get to the end line? Maybe not. But so now you can start playing about like, okay, what angles are you coming at that player on, right? Does it make more sense to sort of come from wider and attack them, right? Or come at a diagonal? And now how do we get them to move a little bit? Like, let's talk about where you want to go past them. Like, where on the field do you want to pass them? Just point to me on the line where you want to pass them. Okay, right there. Great. Can we move her out of that defender out of that space? How do you do it, right? And then you maybe start getting into like, hey, I bet if I leaned a little bit this way with the ball and then took it that way, maybe that would move her out of the way, right? Great. Now what comes next, right? And now it's like, hit the gas and get there fast. And for this, you'd have to find a little mechanism for that. Because you do want them to run away from players. Like for me, it's hit the gas after you've gotten beyond this defender. And because this defender is so restricted in there, that piece of it is kind of gone. You may put a little countdown in there. You may allow ultimately allow that defensive player to go live once the ball's gone past them, so the attacking player has a little bit of a head start. But somehow in there, you want to work it out so that they hit the gas once they go by them, so that once you've eliminated that defender, they stay eliminated from the game type of concept. But I found that really, really useful, and I didn't get it. I cannot remember where. It was at the convention somewhere. It was at the United Soccer Coaches Convention or the NSCAA convention back, in its previous name. But I want to say it was from like a Manchester United Youth Academy session or something. But kind of showed it to me. I saw it in action. I'm like, perfect. It sort of allows to get in on the nitty gritty of like moving beyond a player in somewhat of like an isolated way that I liked.
So you'd be doing this like simultaneously with everybody on the team.
Oh yeah.
And the player in the defender has to stay on that line.
Yeah.
They can't. Okay.
Yeah, they stay on that line. They switch the roles,
And
so
I see every 2 minutes. That seems like a long time. But what do they get a point each time they get past them or something, or maybe it doesn't even matter. I don't know.
Yeah, set up scoring like that. But also like, so I don't know, the like software that I use to put these things together, like this one probably is drawn up for my senior age players, like that timing. That is too long, like for under 8.
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't do it for 2 minutes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd do it for 45 seconds or something, or
and then switch places and see if the other one can get past the other player more than
yeah.
So, I like it.
Yeah, and then you maybe do it in teams. Like if you have multiple fields going on side by side, all the pink players are the defender at first, all the blue players are the attacking at first, and let's see how many can add up. How many times, hey Adam, how many times did you get by that defender? Hey, you got 3. Well, I got 2, and Jeff over here got, and just add them up and created a little competition, but it's still an individualized kind of thing,
Okay.
So I don't know. I like that.
Love that. Love that.
So then I think, in that same, like, do you have time for one more? Do you want to look at one more?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So I think because this would be worth looking at, if we want to go to that last one that I put on there. So this is like a multi-ball, multi-goal game with goalkeepers. So it's
I was going to ask you about multi-goals because I think I read Germany is like requiring multi-goals. I don't know about requiring, but they're like doing a lot of multi-goal stuff with U6s.
Yeah. Well, the multi-goal thing is important. Like I think, I can't remember if I mentioned it earlier, but I think like unlocking possibilities for coaches at these like really young grassroots kind of setups. How many balls can you use and how many goals can you use, right? And that will sort of open up all kinds of opportunities, right? So this one is just kind of has a setup where there's 2 main goals, and in this game that I put together, that does have goalkeepers in, but then there's 2 mini goals like off in the corners, right, that don't have goalkeepers in. Those are little like pop-up puck goals or whatever. And again, you can float multiple balls in. You can let it kind of fizzle out to just one ball for a little while here and there. But what it's kind of do, and it's this sort of like, for me, straddles a line between, under 8, under 10 range, where you just are beginning to sometimes want to start introducing like collaboration between players a little bit. And, so you'll have situations here where you'll have a player go take the ball in individually, attempt to score on the goalkeeper himself or herself. That's great, right? Then you'll have situations where they have that same scenario coming, but one of their teammates has run up to their left or to their right. And, like a light bulb goes off and they go, hey, if I dish this off to the side, that player can go score in this other little goal, right? And so now you get that little bit of like collaborating to solve problems there together. You might start playing with like 2v1 ideas offensively. And then the coaching piece, and the piece that I would keep coming back to for that, like I believe pretty strongly in, is that just keep plan A dribbling and doing it yourself. So even though there are now multiple goals, even though now there are multiple options potentially of like, this teammate's off to my right, this teammate's off to my left. Yeah, but can I do it myself? And then when you start coaching like the top players that you can feel have like a little bit of intuition in their game and are starting to kind of get that, think a little bit I don't know, more artistically or abstractly about this whole thing, then you get is like, hey, can you use that player as a decoy to just go ahead and do it yourself? You know, so maybe you dished it off to them last play, and here's the same setup again. How do you make it look and feel like you're going to dish it off, but still go yourself? You know, and that's like, you see Gio Reyna do stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's not just like that's that subtlety.
We used to.
We're gonna see it again.
He's coming back. He's coming.
Yeah, we're gonna see it again. But you know what I mean? Like that's that like, man, those players that have that like beautiful subtlety and craft that you just can't see, like that surprise that's, you know, in their back pocket. It's stuff like this for me. And like, I'm always surprised at the players that can begin to bring that stuff out if you lay out the field in this way. And then you can, again, play with the incentives, right? Maybe the goal with the goalkeeper in there is worth 2 and the other ones are worth 1. And that starts factoring into things for them a little bit, you know? Mm-hmm. But it's worthwhile to consider like how many goals you have on the field for sure.
Okay. I think this is a great amount of stuff for people to chew on. And, you know, if you're signing up for to coach this fall and you want to stay in touch, you know, send an email, scuffpod@gmail.com. It's basically my favorite topic. Mike, thanks so much for doing this, man. And thanks for all your help over the years. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Adam. This is my favorite. I listen to almost all of your guys' stuff, and this is, I think, my favorite stuff that you guys touch on. It's like always in depth. You know, you go deep on this stuff, which is what I love about it. And so I'm grateful that you thought to have me on. And just, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for what you're doing for the game. Like, it's this whole thing. The longer I'm around in it, you know, the more I realize that this whole thing is just hinges on very, very few people doing important work, and you're certainly one of them doing it. So I mean that. I'm genuinely grateful for what you're doing. If there's ever any way I can help, you just let me know and I'll help.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I think that's it from us. Don't go. But thanks everybody for listening. We'll see ya. Okay, that's the third interview in our little series on youth soccer. It's not the end though. We're going to take comments and questions from people, and at least a couple of the guests and I are going to record one more episode together and respond to as many of those comments as we can. You can leave a voicemail for us by following the link in the show notes. So if you can coach, I think you ought to. And if you want Mike's U6 practice plan and some other ideas in PDF format, they're in the show notes for download. Coaching little kids can be exhausting, but it really is a blast. Highly recommend it. We'll see ya.